Hi everyone, and welcome to this FAQ on how to view a map. So, you might be wondering, why would you need a FAQ on how to view a map? But we actually have quite a bit of functionality that you can use to your advantage when you're even just looking at a map. So let's just start with the basics. First of all, I want you to know how to view a map in terms of how you get to that point. You're going to want to click this eye icon on a map project. Alternatively, you can also click View, but that's really more useful if you already have the drop-down menu on there. So we'll go ahead and go into this project. All right. Now, you'll see that there are a series of layers in Map Mavin, and we have their order here. You might notice, or at least I would notice, it's kind of hard to see these building footprints with this flood extent layer on it. Now, that's not necessarily wrong. I mean, it might be implying that the flood inundated those buildings, but it isn't very easy to see, and I think we could get the same message across if we were to move that layer under building footprints, but still keep it visible on top of the imagery layer. So, to do that, while you're viewing, you can just drag. This isn't going to affect the data or anything. This is just for you. And now it's much easier to see those buildings. Another thing, while we're talking about buildings, that is very important and extremely useful is, of course, actually learning about the layers. So you'll see I clicked the 2013 flood extent, and now I see that this somehow came from Sunshine Creek and then flooded outward, and we've got a couple of other little points of information. You can click on this building. Doesn't look like there's tons of information there, but again, if there was more in the attribute table, we would learn everything we want to know about that particular building. If you're wondering what I mean by attribute table, I won't go down into the weeds too much with that, but essentially every layer is going to have imagine a spreadsheet that is hidden in the background that contains all of the data for the layers you're seeing. And you can actually see that. I'm not going to jump into that here because we've covered that quite a bit in editing videos and whatnot. But once you've actually made those changes in the attribute table, they're going to be reflected feature by feature in this viewing mode. So what else can we do here? Well, we can turn layers off entirely. Maybe I just want to see these two in tandem. I can even turn off that satellite image that I uploaded, and even go as far as to turn off the base map entirely. Maybe I just want to look at the data and keep it isolated. I'm not going to use this feature, but one that I always love that you may or may not need is the Go to My Location feature. I'm not going to use that because I am in New York City right now, so we don't need to zoom across the country. But if you have enabled location services, it's going to show up on your phone or on your laptop as being wherever you are, so you can zoom over your location. We also have a whole host of base maps, including high-resolution satellite imagery, both recent and older, from Digital Globe. Without going too deep into that, the key differences here are that this one, just labeled satellite, is generally more cloud-free, but as a result might be older, whereas the recent is of course more recent but may contain some clouds. That's not a big issue in a place like Boulder, Colorado, which is generally pretty dry and arid throughout the year, but it can make a huge difference in, say, the tropics. So it's just something to keep in mind. What else do we have on here? Well, for one, you might be wondering, okay, this is great, but how do I change my orientation or my perspective? That's where this tilt button is going to come into play. So, of course, we're starting off at north, but now we can pivot around to any compass direction, and we can change the angle that we're looking at. So you don't just have to look from a perspective of being at nadir, but you can actually go in and out here, and it will retain that tilt as we zoom in and out. Also, this is a very useful little feature for when you're viewing 3D data and you want to come in from the side in terms of looking at features like buildings, for example. We have a whole video on that. I encourage you to check it out, but I'm just putting that one out there for you. What else do we have on here? One of the most handy and nifty tools, I use it all the time because I tend to get lost, both literally and within a map online, is our zoom to initial extent button. Bam! Alright, so now we're back where we started. Now it might not seem as close with the tilt on, so let's do that again. Alright, so that's where we started on the map. You can also go ahead and mark up your map. What do we mean by mark up? Imagine highlighting it with transparent paper or just mocking up notes on it. So you might be thinking, you know what, I want to note these 3 points on this construction site, and then maybe make a polygon around it so I know where I'm going to be working today. You can do that. You can also stylize this this polygon that you made in the points. Let's go ahead and change the color here. Make it greenish yellow. Okay, now it's really easy to see. And I could delete that. I could also add a line and what have you. And then I can actually have several different versions of these collections of markups. We call them workspaces. So a workspace is just one layer of all of the markups you've made. And then if you want another one, you can make another one on here. And it will start completely fresh and you can toggle between them. Lastly, it's worth mentioning that if you wanted to jump on a screen share chat, that is going to be the button to get it to. I think that covers just about everything that you're going to want to have in mind as you are viewing your maps. The only other thing I'd like to mention is that even though it's right there, it tends to go unnoticed. You can search by location here. So you could type in hospital, Boulder, and I accidentally typed in one for Alabama, but if I typed in, I believe the hospital is Foothills Hospital. Okay, so they start showing up, and then you could have the map go to there as you select it. That's it for map viewing. As always, do not hesitate to reach out to us, whether to myself directly at fletcher@apollomapping.com or to our support team at support@mapmavin.com. Thanks.